Hey y'all, I am back after a couple weeks of a break with another Magical Monday behind the curtain. Life has been moving pretty quick for me, and I really like to show up authentic and really present on these videos and really any video I do. And I just wasn't able to for the past couple of weeks. So my intention is every Monday, and then when life happens, I will skip. So hope that's a message for you to be a little bit more forgiving and a little bit more human and a little bit less rigid with your expectations for yourself, even if there are commitments. It's actually pretty okay most of the time for us to honor what we need. So there's a lot swirling in the collective. Therefore, there is a lot shifting and recalibrating in my life. So these are always supposed to be some sort of a model, permission slip, who knows what, for honoring what's going on. And so I want to name, before I start talking about my life and my stuff and my things, that this Friday there is a lunar eclipse and a full moon in Scorpio. If you know anything about astrology, you know that Scorpio likes to get to the root of the root. It is deep and can have some darkness. I'm a Leo sun sign with Scorpio rising, so that's why I'm pretty allergic to small talk. I don't know how to do that. But when we have something like this eclipse and the full moon, there is this invitation to look at what's being shown to us in those deeper, darker places, the root of the root kind of a thing. And full moons are about deciding what it's time to release and then holding intentions anew based on what we know and who we've become and all that good stuff. So I was listening to an astrology overview this morning, and they were saying that these events on Friday are affecting our house of identity. So I also want to say this week and the weeks leading up to it, like a lot of weeks leading up to it, are really about who am I now? What's the story of me? And what do I need to let go of? And what am I going to courageously commit to moving toward? So all that's a setup for me talking about what's been going on with me. So I have been, those who know me and are in my inner circle or who have done my high intimacy groups have known that I moved into my current house right before the world shut down. My husband and I sold the house that was mine when I was single and decided to move, and this was going to be a temporary stop. And then we were going to find, a house that really fit for both of us. The world had different plans for us. So we landed here and the pandemic happened and all of that. And we were somewhat newly married. And so we liked the neighborhood. So we ended up buying the house. But I hated the house from the moment we walked in. I am a light, spacious window kind of person. And this is a hobbit house, is how I've described it. It's adorable, it's cute, but it feels like a house that is more about safety and security rather than expansiveness. So we've been here on purpose. I don't believe things like this happen on accident. And it has literally pushed us during this time of deep transition, with my husband hiking the Appalachian Trail and me going through my journey while he was gone and recalibrating my business, which is always a thing in my life, and him changing his career and identity. Like all of that big stuff has happened while we've been in this small space. And it has been hard. It's been like I've wanted to have temper tantrums, and maybe I have a couple times. But it's been like this necessary pressure to crystallize what we now know, what we now want, and to purge the stuff that was outdated because there was nowhere to run. There was nowhere to get away from each other or ourselves. There's not, this isn't a home that allows for a lot of distraction. So all that to say, we decided several months ago, we were like, okay, we're really ready. Like, we did the work in this house. We're ready to move on to our next chapter. It, like, the energy of all that's happened feels different. It's time. So we, visited a few different houses, and it was like, yeah, that's nice, and not quite. And then we saw a house that was like made for us in an area that we want to be, that's got more nature, that's got a real sense of community, a lovely detached garage situation that has an apartment that's going to be decked out with like my own designed office, so that I am not in the same space where I sleep, which has been part of my dream. All these things, right? So we saw this house 2 days before I left for the Mudita retreat I just co-facilitated. So it happened at a time where it was not the most convenient because there was already a lot going on. And so I say all of this because sometimes life likes to work this way. It's like efficiency. Let's just do all the things right now. And if we try to control it, if we try to wrangle it in our very human way that we are taught to do, it can be really painful and overwhelming. And so my practice has been riding the waves. There's a GIF on the iPhone that's got this woman surfing a big wave, and she's like this, right? So that's kind of my essence of the past several months of my life, is I'm getting better at surfing. It doesn't mean it's pretty. It doesn't mean it's easy. It feels wobbly, but I want to be riding the waves that feel most right, most benevolent, most healing. And I rode those waves stuck in this house through the pandemic with all my growth and my shadows and all that. And now I'm really feeling like I'm in a place of riding those waves to the next chapter. So when we say yes to a new chapter, we have to greet the parts of us that we didn't even know were living in the old. So I recently had an interaction with my mom where she was talking about how, and with a lot of pride, as many people do, how she's never bought a car without paying completely in full. And this kind of like save before you buy mentality, which I totally get. I'm not trying to knock it, but that's how I was raised. And that, as an entrepreneur, is really not aligning with the principles of abundance and flow in the same way. So I've done a lot of untangling with my relationship with money. And, she was a school counselor for her whole career and had retirement. I'm an entrepreneur. I got me and what I create. And now my husband has the same, because he opted out of being an employee to create his own path, which comes with so much benefit and freedom and a different type of responsibility at times. So we've been sitting with this whole idea of creating wealth and thinking like wealthy people, even though neither of us grew up that way. He had, hippie parents who followed a guru to India one time and sold all their things. And I had a single mom who was like amazingly committed to making sure we were taken care of through a lot of control and organization. And she did great, right? And that's probably not my path. And it's probably not my husband's path. So we're being asked to think beyond who we've been in relationship to money, to wealth, to opportunity. And so when this house came up, we have this other house that's in one of the best neighborhoods of where we live. And we went, well, what if we want to hold on to this as an investment and have this, right? I'm going to tell you, for us to even think that thought goes so against our conditioning. So just that of like, what if we can have both? What if And y'all, we are entrepreneurs. He hiked the Appalachian Trail, was out of work for nearly a year last year. We don't look great on paper. So we've been really committed to this practice of, instead of defaulting to can't, to practicing how. And that's what I want to really express to any of you who need to hear this is can't is so protective. And I've used can't countless times in my life to avoid disappointment. How is brave. And that's what we're leaning into. And we're thinking outside of the box, and we're asking questions we normally wouldn't ask. And we're committing our energy to a vision of possibility, even when our fear and our conditioning is like losing its shit. And so I'm not saying go be irresponsible or reckless with your lives, but what I'm realizing as somebody who holds magical vision so effortlessly for others and has, for so many years, holding it for ourselves is different. And it's this curious practice of even noticing where we are can't oriented, where we are just assuming that can't is truth, when how might be like this wide open door. So more to come on that. We'll see how all that works out. I think this month is going to be really interesting for that. And just to see how it unfolds. And I'm being very real and honest with y'all about the fact that like, we're in it. We're doing the thing right now. Right now, we're practicing what we both preach in our respective worlds and the way we lead our lives. So that's thing number one, can't to how, building those muscles. And then I wanted to share with you all my current manifestation practice or magic making practice. I was on a call with Karen Curry Parker, who founded Quantum Human Design. I love her, highly recommend her. And I was on one of her many courses, live calls, and she brought out a book, and I'm going to show you my book. This is mine. That she takes everywhere with her. And it's basically like a deconstructed vision board is the way I would describe it. And I'd never seen someone do it like this. I've done vision boards, and if you've been following me for a while, you know that I burned them all end of last year, I think, to get this like fresh start, because I realized they had some like fear and control energy behind them, even though they were beautiful. But Karen talked about how, so she has at the beginning of her book, and I'll explain kind of how I set mine up. There's these, pictures that represent what she is calling in, what she is wanting to align with, who she's becoming, her vision, right? Vision board stuff. And then, so that's what she had. And as I was sitting on that call, I went, ooh, because this is how my brain works. What if you did that? And welcome to my brain. And so I started a practice. And so in the first part of my book, which I decorated with stickers from my Radical Magic road trip, that's what all these stickers are, because they have the energy of that joy and that freedom and that expansiveness that I felt when I went on my road trip. So that's what that is. And then I've got my pictures with different things I'm holding in my vision. But then I have this little ribbon that marks the other part. And every single day, I just have 2 bullet points. And it's like, I do a number 1 and a number 2. And I know what those are. So the first thing is I write down, and it can be 1 sentence or it can be a paragraph of some sort of abundance, joy, support, magic that I experienced that day. It can be anything from a genuinely loving conversation with a checkout person to like just yesterday, I crossed paths with a friend, and she and her family were joining the gym that I go to, and they just happened to drop my name. And so now I get like a discounted rate for the next several months, just because I was telling her about the classes that I go to and love. So that would be a thing I would document, be like, unexpected abundance. Yay. It doesn't matter if it is a nickel you find on the ground or thousands of dollars that show up in your bank account from somewhere that you never would have expected. It could be anything, but it's that focus on what is there, what is working, what is abundant, and focusing there, because our brains like to focus on what's not there yet. Then the second part, the second bullet point, which usually is a bit longer for me, is I sometimes I flip through my pictures and focus on one of those things that I'm calling in. And I close my eyes and I imagine that thing already fulfilled. I feel it in my body. And then I write a journal entry as if that future is already in existence. So it might be like, I might put myself, just the other day, I put myself in my birthday in August. And I was like, as I enter my 44th year, I am so in awe of, grateful for, love that this happened. And I just write it as if it's happened and let my body and my mind feel that potential. And it's fun. It's imaginative. So one thing is like reality of now. And then the second thing is intentional imagination around the fulfillment of something, some desire, some vision. And I've been doing this for a month, and it takes me 5 minutes before I put it next to my bed. I've got my pen and my book by my bed. And as I go to bed, I do that, and then I go to sleep, which I think that timing is actually pretty cool too, because then my subconscious is set for that when I start to fall asleep. So can't to how, and here is my manifestation practice. And you can take this anywhere. Like I got a sketchbook from Michael's that was small enough to where I could throw it in a suitcase easily. When I traveled to Atlanta recently for the retreat, I took my book. I did it. I think I missed 1 or 2 days, which who cares if you miss a day? Don't beat yourself up. But I had it to anchor in. And that's part of how we align with what hasn't yet occurred. Magical possibility is through practicing it. And sometimes it's pictures in a book and 5 minutes of imagination and gratitude. All right, y'all, that's where I am. This is probably a little bit of a long one, but life has been a lot. And I'll be excited to hear if you try this magic making practice and how it unfolds for you.